Hey there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today. And this one is an Authorized King James Version Bible produced by Cambridge Bibles. And this particular edition is their Concord wide margin. Now, I am going to be having a kind of a Cambridge wide margin roundup video coming out soon. I'm going to compare a whole bunch of editions of the wide margin. But I did want to review this one by itself, only because it does kind of stand apart from the other ones. The other ones tend to have a similar layout and font size and kind of treatment overall. They're very, very similar among the models. And this one kind of stands out only because it's an older Concord layout. So it's not that modern typeface. It's an older, kind of an older layout. So let's go ahead and take a look at it here. This particular edition is in the calf split. So we'll take a look and we can see that nice grain. Now, I have heard that this is a press grain. I'm not too sure myself. It's a nice grain either way. I like it. I mean, it's not I'm not like, super in love with it, but it's a nice grain nonetheless. You do have Holy Bible imprinted on the front there. And there is a nice perimeter line on the edge there. It continues over to the spine. We'll take a look at the spine here. And it says Holy Bible, King James Version. Then you have wide margin edition. And then you have their colophon and the Cambridge logo. And there are some, not really even barely rib indications. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And there are just some very, very, very slight indentations there in the spine. We'll take a look at the back. It's clean. The perimeter line does continue, and there is that nice grain again. Now we'll look at the head and tail bands. They are red and gold, which is kind of the Cambridge standard. And you do have 2 black ribbons. There is a very nice gilt done on this. Now there is not a kind of a red under gold art gilt, only because this is the calf split, which is kind of the middle of the road model. So it'll just have the gilt done. And you can see it's very well done, very well done. Now we'll take a look at these 2 ribbons. And they are black ribbons. They are cheap. They're just cheap ribbons. They're wider ribbons and they're a little on the thick side, but they don't feel like satin on either end. It's just kind of a fabric ribbon, a cheap ribbon. Especially given the price, they probably could have upped the ribbon game a little bit, but it's all right. Ribbons are utilitarian things, right? Especially in this edition. I feel like this edition is more for somebody who wants a soft cover, but they don't want to spend the money of the goat skin. I would certainly understand getting this one, and it makes sense to me. This would definitely be a great wide margin KJV to get, and we'll see that kind of as we get into it. So we'll open it up. It does include one of these little Cambridge cards. I'm always a fan of this ephemera that comes with Bibles. I tend to hold on to it. I don't know why. I think most people probably throw it away. I hold on to them just for, I don't even know. I can't even give you a reason. I just hold on to them. So there's that. We'll take a look at the inside here. It is a paste down construction. There is some reinforcing tape here, and it is a black synthetic material on the paste down there. The paste down does make it more flexible on the open, like it will kind of open and stay open. But that's kind of the case with the goat skin as well, even though the goat skin is edge lined, only because these pages are so large, they have an easy time kind of holding the Bible open. We'll take a look at the corner work there, and it is stamped with calf split leather. You can see in the bottom. Go over to the back, and the back is clean. I'll show you the corners there real quick. It's a nice construction overall. After a while, I would imagine they might split here. Like I said, there is some reinforcement tape, so maybe not, but, time will tell. Let's get into the biblical text here. Let me try and get it all in frame. It's a very large Bible. I got my table cranked all the way down. So we have just the end sheet there, and then we have one thick cardstock page. Then we have the blank presentation page, and I love the way they did this. It kind of leaves it open-ended for you if you want to make it a presentation Bible or a gift. You can kind of write whatever you want there, and it's nice that it's just kind of blank and free and doesn't have anything specific written on it. We have the first title page there, the Holy Bible. We have the second title page there. I might not even have to hold it up for you guys, but I will, right? So there's the Holy Bible. And then Cambridge's information down there, and you can see that it is a Concord 8VO wide margin edition. And then we have the bold figure cross references and pronunciation marks, which are 2 features to the Bible. I really do appreciate how Cambridge does this. It's very easy to track kind of what the model is that you're looking at. The only thing I wish they did a little bit different was just kind of the printing information as far as like when it was printed. But we'll take a look here on the copyright page. So we have their information there, the colophon again, their license to print. And then see here it says first published 1996. And I have seen in some other Cambridge Bibles that I have, it'll say like second printing and it'll give a date. So I don't know if this was just this kind of first initial run of prints from 1996 and they're just going through these old book blocks, or what, but that's kind of all we get to work with. This edition I purchased secondhand, so I'm kind of working with limited understanding of kind of when it was produced. But then there you can see the bottom, typeset in 8/9 point times semi-bold, 421, and then printed and bound on the Netherlands. I will say that all of these wide margin Bibles, they all do have the same size font. They're all a 9-point font in comparison to Times New Roman, which is nice, even though here it says Times 8-point. I'm not sure how they're measuring it, but in comparison to Times New Roman, it's a 9-point font. Look at the contents here. Very nicely done. Turn the page. We have the guide to the pronunciation marks, and then a little note here on the Cambridge bold figure references and the epistle dedicatory. And you can see this nice kind of older typeface here. It's nice and bold. That is one of the benefits to this edition. It's much bolder the text versus the other editions, and I have one that I'll compare it to here in a second. We have the translators to the reader, which I super appreciate. I love when they include this in the KJV. I tried to read through it once, the extended, I think this is the full edition. Sometimes they put like an abbreviated version, not Cambridge, but other Bible manufacturers. But when they include the full one here, it's kind of a long read, and it's written in Old English. So it's kind of a bear to get through. I was getting a little confused. But I would definitely recommend sitting down and reading it. It might leave you scratching your head, and that's okay. It is what it is. So we'll get through these translators to the readers. And then we get your table of contents there, kind of the standard deal. And then we get right into it. The first book of Moses, called Genesis. And I always say we get right into it, even though technically we didn't get right into it, but you guys know what I mean, right? So here you go. Let me leave it zoomed out. But you can see here, the benefit of this edition are these beautiful, beautiful wide margins, very nice wide margins. And thankfully, you have a nice wide gutter here, a nice wide inner margin. It discourages me greatly when I see a wide margin Bible or a Bible that claims to be wide margin and it's a double column and they put it, inside the gutter. That does me no good if I want to write notes for the interior column there. It's completely different if it's only a single column Bible and then you have, it's kind of moved into the gutter, because you're only going to have one verse per line or maybe a paragraph per line, and then you can just make your notes on the outside and it's okay. But whenever there's two columns, it definitely behooves the edition to move it to the actual center of the page, which is nice. Just a lot here. Let's turn the page. We'll take a better look at it here. Beautiful layout here. I love this. So it is a double column, verse by verse. And you can see on the top, we have the name of the book and the chapters that are associated with the page. We do have running headers across the pages there, only one per page. We do have the chapters. There's a double line drop cap. We have the page numbers at the bottom, and it does look like they're utilizing Pilcrow marks here. So that is a plus, so you know where the paragraphs are. Some of the newer editions that Cambridge is putting out, they've removed these Pilcrow marks in double column verse by verse editions. And I have no idea how you're supposed to tell where you are, at least as far as the paragraphs start. Pilcrow markers, I understand like the original Hebrew text, at least as far as I know, didn't have Pilcrow markers. I think that's an American invention or an English invention. But this always makes it easier for me to kind of give me a heads up. It's like, okay, we're changing direction here. Without those, I tend to get a little lost. That's just me, my personal thing. But just an aside there. We do have the center column references, and you do have, like it said in the beginning, these nice bold numbers for your center column references. And I'll go ahead and pull this in so you guys can see an example of those. They're very nicely done. Very nicely done. And I'm a fan of these older type settings. They just look nice. I'm not so much a fan of the pronunciation marks. I think they get a little cumbersome. In some modern editions, I like it when they move the pronunciation keys to the very back. They have like a guide. So if you want to know how to pronounce Euphrates, right, you can look in the back, reference the back, instead of having every single mention of the word Euphrates with all those pronunciation marks. It just gets a little cumbersome. But we'll go ahead and flip through it some and just take a look at this beautiful layout. You guys can enjoy these nice wide margins. But like I was saying, this definitely makes an excellent edition. If you are a fan of the King James Version Bible, I would definitely recommend this. This is quite possibly one of the very best wide margins. I have another wide margin that I'll compare it to here, but this one just surpasses it. by leaps and bounds. There is kind of a price difference here, and that price difference that you're paying for is certainly the paper quality. This is a very nice paper. Let me get to and you can see here one of the issues. So this was a secondhand Bible. And you can see one of the things here. I'm assuming this was a factory second, just given the price that I paid for it. But this was one of the kind of the issues with it. And it looks like maybe on the printing press, there might have been like some dirt on the roller, and it kind of stained the page here. which is kind of, it's kind of crummy, but for the price I paid for it, I don't care because this Bible, obviously it's a wide margin. It's going to get written in anyway. And this is such a faint mark. It's A-okay with me. And I think there was only a couple pages that had something kind of similar to that on it. Okay, so we have Psalms here. Psalm 119. We'll take a look. Obviously, it's a double column paragraph King James Version, so there's no attempt at a poetic setting or anything like that. But we'll look at the paper. Certainly, this paper is spectacular. I mean, this is probably the closest thing you're going to get to like an old India paper. I mean, there's still a little bit more show through in comparison to an old India paper, and certainly given the paper thickness, this is a nice thick paper. There would have been less show through if this was an India paper, but this is very good. Either way, India or not, for modern printing, it's a very nice paper they've used. So, now the paper is, like I was saying, it is very thick, a nice thick Bible paper. It is very easy to turn. There is just enough texture on it to make it, I would imagine, like easy to write on. It's not one of those like very kind of like silky smooth papers. I always feel like those are going to be impossible to write on. This has just enough texture to where I feel like it would probably write very nicely. Here we go. There we go. The New Testament. So you have the end of the prophets there on the New Testament title page. And we have the Gospel according to St. Matthew. So there you go. Very nice. All right, now let's flip to the end here. There are some helps and some aids here in the back. So we have the end of the Bible here. And then we have a short glossary of biblical usage. So just a little glossary. I'll give you guys a closer look. There you go. I think I skipped all the glossary right there. Yep, there's the end of the glossary. And then you have a title page for the concordance to the Old and New Testaments. And you have the concordance. And I'll show you that. Very nicely done. And this concordance does have a pretty nice size font. It's certainly not hard to use by any stretch of the imagination. And let me try and show you the full concordance here, how thick it is. It's a pretty chunky concordance. There's the end of it. Yeah, man. It's hard to tell if you've only got one page or two because the paper's so nice and thick. So that's the concordance. It's a fairly chunky concordance. It's got a decent number of entries there. Then you have an index to the notes. Now this is something that I really like that Cambridge does in their wide margins. They give you like lettered pages. You can see here, I'll flip through a couple of them. But it just has little letters at the top, and this makes it easy if you wanted to do like a topical index or something like that. Or do like a letter reference to your notes. If you have like expanded notes, you could start with like A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, as you kind of go through and make the notes if you have like extra that you need to write. And then after that, we have Z, or Z, as my friends across the pond say. Then you have one blank sheet of Bible paper, and then you get to Cambridge's awesome notebook paper here. And this is a faintly lined, blue-lined notebook paper, and there's a little gap between the center here, so it gives you kind of like two columns. And it is a thicker paper, certainly thicker than the Bible paper, and it is almost like kind of like those Mead notebooks that you used to have in high school, the little composition notebooks. It's a nice thick paper here for notes, and plenty of it. I mean, you guys can see plenty of this notebook paper. Very nice. Definitely appreciate that. I wish more Bible producers would do this. Then you have the Bible maps, and you have your list of maps. Then you have your map index. Wah wah. Not a gazetteer. I can only hope. Cambridge, if you're watching, if somebody from Cambridge is watching this, I really doubt they're going to watch it. But if they are, please start using the word gazetteer again. I really love it. Even though people might not understand what it is, I love it. And then you have the biblical maps here. The Bible maps. Some people call them Bible maps. And these are very nice maps. Very nice Cambridge maps. I love the kind of a combination here between the subdued colors and then the kind of brighter colors here to call out certain areas. And they're very well done, very nicely done maps. We'll go through these a little bit, and these are copyright 1986, so I think they have updated their maps since then, if I'm not mistaken. And here's a nice one. I do like how they split it here in the gutter to make it a little easier to read, so it doesn't go all the way down in there. These nice large maps. This is probably going to be the largest maps you can find in a Cambridge. And then you have one sheet of map paper, and these maps are done on like a matte finish paper, so it's very easy. It's kind of that same notebook paper, that same thickness, and it's nice and matte finish, so if you need to take notes on it, you certainly can. There's one blank sheet there of notebook paper, a second sheet there of notebook paper, and then you have a cardstock sheet, and another cardstock sheet, and the flyleaf there, the end sheet. I'll take a look at the little production code down there. That is the ISBN on the bottom, and then I'm not sure, maybe the item number, I'm not sure, right above it. So, excellent Bible. Let me get you some measurements. Like I said already, the font is a 9-point, so we'll go ahead and bypass that just so we can save a couple seconds there. And it measures in at 9 5/8 of an inch tall. It's a big boy, goodness, very large. And then width-wise, it is 7 3/4 of an inch wide. And then for thickness, it is about 1 5/8 inches thick. So, good hefty size, good hefty Bible. So let's take a look. Let's do some comparisons. So the first one I have here is a New King James Version, right? What better to compare it to than a New King James Version? And we'll look at them both here. Now, so this New King James Version is kind of their standard wide margin layout. So we'll open up and look at the text in a second. But first I want to look at the cover, and this one is actually a goat skin. So you can see the difference here in the leather patterns, right? So this is the calf split. And I like the grain. It's a decent grain. But yeah, nothing beats goat skin. Goat skin's a very nice grain. So you can see that lovely goat skin grain we're very, very familiar with Cambridge. And we'll take a look here at the thickness, and this is something that's interesting to me. The King James Version is ever so slightly thicker. So I'm not sure if the paper's the same. I'll kind of look at them both here in a second, but you can see kind of the size there, the size comparison there. Just about the same exact size, if not the same exact size, to be honest with you. And you can see the difference between the red under gold art gilt and then just the standard gold art gilt. So New King James Version's on the right. Let's go ahead and get this guy opened up. Now, with the other editions, or I guess maybe with the even with the King James Version and a goat skin, you are going to get kind of the edge-lined construction here. With the goat skin, you have kind of the folded over edge there with the perimeter stitching and this synthetic material here for the edge-lined portion. So just to note, now as far as the ribbons are concerned, the ribbons feel almost identical, so you're going to get the same kind of blah ribbons, sadly. Sadly, in this nice Bible, you're going to get the same blah ribbons. But it is what it is, I guess. So one thing to note is certainly the difference in the paper. So I would imagine the King James is probably a little bit thicker because the paper is slightly thicker, right? So you can see here, this is much kind of a brighter white, and this is a much more creamy paper. Now, as far as thickness goes, I'm not super great at feeling paper thicknesses, but this definitely feels thicker than this. It might not be much, I don't want to take a guess. I think I tried to look at Cambridge's website and I couldn't really tell, but there's definitely a difference in thickness between the two. And you can kind of see, as far as the show through goes, this has ever so slightly less show through. Let me show you the New King James here. You can see kind of down here, it's a little easier to see the lines of text behind it. Whereas with the King James, with the King James, it was definitely not as easy as this is to see through it. So, it's kind of, I wish that they would have done the other wide margins with this paper because it seems like a better paper, but it is what it is. So I don't know. Maybe the calf split is done in this paper. I don't know, but I would imagine the calf split is probably in this newer paper. Now, as far as layout is concerned, we have here, it looks like there's a little bit, ever so slightly less margin on the New King James on the bottom, and everything else kind of looks very similar as far as margin space goes. Now, obviously, the layout on this is going to be a little bit different. This is a double column paragraph. Let me turn the page right quick. Let's get to one with a chapter on the right hand side. So there we go. You can see here the call out for the chapter is kind of above the text, whereas this just has a numeric indicator on where the chapters start. And then the layout of the center column references is slightly different between the two. And then also there's no running headers here. They've been moved into the text. So otherwise very similar. Page number has been moved up here, which I think is they don't have running headers, so they were able to do this. But it's nice that the page number has been elevated versus down here because this kind of cuts into your writing space ever so slightly. So just of note, some things to note. So let's go ahead and take a look at one last Bible. All right, now this next Bible I have a review on, and it is a First Word Publishers or Bearing Precious Seed wide margin. And this is definitely nowhere in the same ballpark. This particular model is $50. So this is $50 from a Bible ministry. So they are basically selling these Bibles just above cost. Now the benefit is that you do get this nice leather cover, and I love this grain very much more than the calf split. and you do have an edge line construction, which is nice on this with a synthetic material similar to the Cambridge. But the level of the construction quality is not quite as good as a Cambridge, nor is the paper as good as a Cambridge. So we'll take a look here. And you can see this one has excellent wide margins as well. The Cambridge beats it a little bit on the exterior margins here, certainly, but on the interior margins, they look to be about equal. Now, on the tops and bottoms, though, the bearing pressure C definitely trumps the Cambridge wide margin there. But you can see the difference. The paper on this is nowhere near as good. This is a little bit smoother. This is much more of a rough paper. And the print on this certainly is nowhere near as dark as the Cambridge. It's kind of a lighter, it's almost a gray print, I hate to say. Sorry, bearing pressure speed. But this is almost like a gray print. The layout is very similar between the two. This one is lacking the center column references, obviously. But just something to note. You got to kind of weigh your pros and cons, I guess. If you're looking for like a true wide margin inside and out, this is a good option for $50 for probably double, if not more, the cost. You can upgrade to the Cambridge. It's just going to be your kind of what you're looking for. Yeah. And I think that's all I wanted to show you guys. If you have any questions, Bible buddies, about this Cambridge or anything others, or any of the others, please let me know down below. If you could please like, comment, subscribe, and do all that YouTube stuff. Otherwise, Bible buddies, until next time, bye.